Who would like to talk about their experiences from the last week that we got together and their coping strategies that they experienced?
I can start. So I feel like based off the last time we met, because I'm so anxious all the time, that journaling was really helpful for me because it was a way that I can like kind of fact check myself, like what are things that like I'm feeling anxious about now, but like aren't things that I can control that are more like future orientated. So I was kind of like crossing off things that were like, oh, well, is this like an anxious feeling that's like actually present, or is this something that's more futuristic?
Mm.
And so I was like canceling off the things that were like very future orientated, which caused me a lot of anxiety. And so the long list that I had really kind of dwindled down to like about three things. And so it kind of made me
Okay.
visually see, like, oh, wow, like all this stuff that I'm feeling anxious about are like things that I actually can't control right now. So that
Mm.
was really helpful for me. I really enjoyed like taking that to like help me cope with just like the everyday weak anxieties that I get.
Oh, that's really cool. You used it as a coping strategy to kind of eliminate process of elimination of what is in your control. That's really good. I'm glad it helped out.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank
sharing.
you.
McKenna, what was your experience?
So for the homework, it was really beneficial just to try to like make a note of the like coping mechanism that I tried to use. But I will say I don't think I really did a very good job. But last week was just a really busy work week, and just in general, that just really doesn't help my anxiety at all. Um, and with that being said, I did find myself one night smoking just to like alleviate my stress, and that was something I was a little disappointed in myself, which I
Mhm.
wrote down in my journaling. But I was at least able to like go outside one time for a walk when I started feeling really anxious, and that was the one I really wanted to implement through the week. um,
Mhm.
so I think with that I kind of was a little down on myself with the homework, um, because it wasn't exactly the most positive coping mechanism, but at least I was able to do one. That's why I keep reminding myself. um, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a process, and then with everything else going on, it's an added thing to do, right? And with any like new activity or any new like um task, it does take a while, so don't be too hard on yourself. We'll get there. But you did really good with
Thank you.
reflecting and everything. What about you, Shannon?
I'm not like a huge like journaling person, but I have tried it because I know you had suggested that we, before we meet again, to go ahead and try to implement that. So I did do it a few nights, but what I ended up doing, because I used to meditate in the past, and so I
Okay.
tried to kind of get back to that. And I found a podcast that I really liked, and it basically was just, between 5 and 15 minutes that you can just do right before bed, or you can do them when you wake up in the morning before you start your day. So I found that actually better, like more beneficial for me in reducing anxiety and even like the depression that I was feeling. To either do that before bed or in the morning, depending on how I felt, in the morning or at bedtime. So I think, moving forward, that'd be something I'm gonna try to implement more often.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you found something that helps. All of these things are suggestions, right? So I'm glad you guys are able to kind of tailor it to what works best for you guys, because whatever fits in your schedule and what feels good will um be more constant, even after our group together. It's really good. What about you, Jared?
Um, I don't know. I feel like so it's I feel a little uncomfortable. Sorry, I just like don't know how to bring this up in like a good way, but I just I guess Laura, like I don't feel like really like welcomed and like comfortable in this group, because I
Mm-hmm.
just like I'm the only guy. I'll just say it. Like I'm
Yeah.
the guy here. And so I just feel like, you and Jenny, because you're leading the group, like I just don't really feel like there's a lot of attempt to like understand me, and it's kind of like, offering me the same solutions as like everybody else. And she's like, I'm different. Guys are a little bit different. So I just like don't really feel
Yeah, for
like
sure.
I'm making a lot of like headway and feel kind of like uncomfortable.
I'm glad you shared. It does take a lot to say what you're feeling, right? And I completely understand. It is a different um a whole different scenario because you are a male in a group of women, right? So it's really good that you share that with us. Is there anything, any suggestions for us that um would help you feel more heard and more understood?
Um,
Or maybe bringing in like a male co-therapist
yeah, I mean, I haven't thought
help
of that,
you
man.
out.
That would obviously like be nice, to like, have somebody
Yeah.
that I can, relate to. Like I'm trying my best, but like I end up just kind of like thinking about my fiance and like, like, oh, I'd be like, oh, she'd be really fit in a group. But like I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um,
Can I chime in really quick? I
yeah,
just
yeah,
want
yeah.
um to acknowledge, Jared, all that it is that you're sharing with us right now, and maybe Laura, just respectfully, without stepping on any toes. I feel like this might be a good time to pause before we go into fixing or addressing how we can find solutions. I believe that it's possible for us to do that, to find solutions together. But first, Jared, I just want to say, like, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, how it is that you're feeling. This is really important, what you're sharing with us, that you're feeling, that you're having emotions or feeling, your thoughts and feelings around this, especially in regards to being the only male in our group, and feeling like maybe, like you're not hurt. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain more to us what that feels like for you.
I guess, and you probably experienced it in your own right, but it's like, you all are so in touch with how you're feeling and can, like relate to each other and bounce off this and that and journal about your feelings and talk about it with people and talk about it amongst each other and know exactly what you're feeling. It's like I didn't grow up like that, in a household where, I have two brothers. I have two brothers and I have a dad and I have a stepdad, and it's like I didn't grow up, my mom's really tough headed too. There was no feelings. We didn't talk about feelings. Feelings weren't cool, and so like I just feel like I'm getting left behind, in this.
I hear you're saying that you're feeling like you are getting left behind, and I wonder if that feeling is familiar to you beyond just this group of being here with us women. If there's another time in your life where this feeling is familiar.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I grew up, I was the youngest, and my brothers are 15 years older than me. So, they had already lived a full life, and I was kind of just like the last. So, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I just feel like you guys are all so far ahead of me, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm. Right. So, yeah, so I can imagine that that's coming up for you now too, especially being with all women and how you grew up and everybody. It seems that more people in this group are more in touch with their emotions or have more experience expressing your emotions. And I wonder if for you, um, you haven't been given that opportunity to express. What was it like for you as a kid or a young person to have feelings and not know how to express them, or were you given opportunities to express them or develop them at all?
I mean, I think now, like now I've started to get some opportunities, but as a kid, like no, of course, not at all. It was tough. I think like what I'm looking for, like if I'm gonna be in this group, is just like like, how do you do it? You know, like I'm at like basic. You guys are like advanced, you know, like journaling and writing and talking about it, and like, oh, I felt this and that, you know, and just not there. You know, it's like I need like, how do you even know what you're feeling? You know, how did you get there? You know, I could use some support on that.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And Laura, I wanted to invite you to share because Laura, I know Laura outside of this group as well. As co-facilitators, we've developed a friendship along the way. And I know Laura you have some experience with this too in your own life. And I wonder if it would be a good opportunity to share with Jared so that he could see your human side too, and that you haven't
Yeah.
always been like an expert at sharing your emotions. What's that been
Yeah,
like for you?
for sure. Yeah, so I think a kind of big um idea behind like the differences between males and females is that females are in tuned with their emotions and things. But I will also like to open it up to the group if you guys have anything to say. But for me personally, I am very um in this learning process of speaking of emotions because it is a very uncomfortable topic, especially because there's a lot of stigma attached to like being emotional, right? Because we're taught in this systemic view that, if you're emotional, you're not in control, which I do not think that is true at all because our emotions tell us a lot about ourselves and how we keep each other safe. Because even anxiety, for example, a lot of the feelings that we have of anxiety is because we want to keep ourselves safe. So we get this anxious feeling, and then just like Katarina shared, going through that and then trying to see what are real dangers to us, what actually poses a danger to us, and what part of those can we actually control, and kind of just seeing rationally like what is a danger and what is not really helps us out. Is anybody else would like to share their experience of like the uncomfortableness of talking about their emotions?
I can share. I think so like a pretty big part of why I first came to the support group for anxiety mostly is because I have such big fear of just like speaking in public, just in general to people. That just is something that always makes me so anxious, and especially now going into the working field, like workforce, I've like just now have to like speak in front of just some superiors, and that makes me really nervous. And so I thought in kind of this kind of environment, it one pushes me to talk about my emotions. And so just with that in general of like speaking in front of people first off, and then speaking in front of people in the sense of being vulnerable and talking about my emotions, it's just like so outside of my comfort zone. So I think when I first started coming here, I really didn't even know how to begin opening up at all. It's been a like slow journey, definitely growing with everyone. And I still struggle just naming even what I'm feeling in the moment. But I think it's what's most beneficial for me is if I just talk through a situation at least first, then the group has been really helpful in helping me like identify emotions as well that have maybe come up in it too. But that's personally why I first started coming here, and it's been really helpful and beneficial for me.
Yeah,
Oh
it's hard
God.
to not like compare myself to you guys, you know, so thanks for sharing that because I just like, you know, I the main reason I came to this group is, you know, because I feel a lot of like social anxiety and like, you know, I'm getting married and I don't know how to talk to my fiance, so I just bottle it all up. And you know, I'm just like I think really what just I just like afraid that like I'm never gonna learn how to do it, you know, and that I'm just gonna be like stuck, you know, in this forever, you know, just stuck in my feelings, like holding them in and like all numbed out, you know, forever. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
you
go ahead.
oh sorry. Even you expressing the feelings that you have in this group is very big, especially because you're one of the newer people in our group, and then standing up for yourself and speaking up for yourself, that's just already half of the game, you know? So I think you're doing a lot better than you realize, and I think could really grow um if you give us the chance to grow with you and kind of facilitate that on your journey.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I was going to echo the same thing as Laura. I mean, it must have taken a lot for you to share this with us, you know, because you're literally expressing something that it is that you're feeling that impacts the way all of us, you know, relate to you. And it's showing a vulnerability to us. And that's a huge win for you. That's practice in itself. I applaud you for that, for having the courage to do that. And I hope that you can see that when you do that, that you're heard by the group, well, heard by us, and that as you practice outside of this group, you'll be heard by others as well, and start to get that positive feedback about speaking your truth, speaking from your heart, and being heard and returned.
Yeah, you're probably right. You know, it's just like fresh in the practice of it, you know, and like it's just all so new, you know, and like, and especially not only new, but then, you know, I'm with like, you know, all group of girls, you know, I've never done, you know, like that in itself for me is like, I'm super uncomfortable because I'm a guy's guy. I'm like, you know, like I hang out with guys. I don't have a lot of friends that are women. Like I'm my girl and that's like it, you know, so this has just like been a very uncomfortable and new experience for me. So I think, yeah, there's just some like resistance and, you know, just like, yeah, I think that's like what was coming up for me.
Yeah, we appreciate your perspective on anything. Feel free to say anything from your part, and if you would like a female perspective on anything to help you out with anything that you're going through, we could all share in that.
Yeah, probably, you know, maybe like, I think if anything, it's just like, you know, tips on how, you know, when you're triggered and you're feeling how to like let it come up. Because for me, I like when feelings start coming rise, I'm just like, I just shove it down and I'm like immediately into like
Yeah.
problem solving mode. And I don't know, you know, I heard last session Shannon talking about how, you know, she took a second, breathed, you know, identified her feeling by writing it down, sat with it, you know, like this whole process. And I was just like, what in the world
Mhm.
is she even talking about? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, systemically, males are taught to push down and bottle up all of their feelings, and they're not very accepting of all feelings. Systemically and in our culture, we just accept anger from males, right? So it might feel foreign to allow all of those other emotions show up, and kind of unwrap what anger might mean, since anger is the most acceptable one. That's usually what comes out and what it shows up as, but it might also be loneliness, it might also be sadness or any other emotions that aren't usually acceptable from males.
Yeah, definitely.